I used to know what normality was. I once succumbed to a routine of it. Lived a normal life. Now I live multiple. Spend enough time pretending to be other people. Eventually you'll become no one. Why do I wear the white? Darker colors make it harder to see the blood.
Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Alrighty, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2, joining me today is...
The real Manos.
Indeed, and today we're continuing our fan film reviews. Manos, what are we reviewing today?
We are reviewing a Moon Knight fan film.
Indeed. So Moon Knight's one of those characters, I've always, been really upfront that I'm not a Marvel guy. And so
what?
Yeah.
When the hell did this happen?
I like Marvel plenty. It's definitely not my universe. I've always preferred DC. And so Moon Knight's one of those characters who people keep telling me, "Oh, if you like Batman, then you should read Moon Knight because it's like Marvel's version of that, and it's really interesting." And Moon Knight is such a weird character because I feel like everyone goes off and does their own thing every time someone else writes Moon Knight. I read the run where it was a very short run where he thought he was on a team with Captain America, Wolverine, and Spider-Man, but he was just crazy and was wearing quasi Wolverine claws and web shooters and all that stuff. And then I think, was it Warren Ellis just a couple years later came in and did this this one's Detective Moon Knight and this one's Superhero Moon Knight and all this other weird stuff. Seems the only consistent thing with Moon Knight is he's supposed to have multiple personalities.
Correct.
And he's also rich, I guess.
Yeah, he's a rich former mercenary who was killed and resurrected by an Egyptian god and put on this mission. And it may depend on the writer that works on him, but he's obviously just really crazy, or it's an effect of what's happened to him, or both. And I've always enjoyed. I'm not too familiar with the character. The only thing I've occasionally read his appearances in other books. The only time I went all in was the Warren Ellis run, which I think is fantastic, and I always recommend it to people. But I've always enjoyed how they're just upfront with him being crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's none of this is the character crazy like they do with Rorschach or Batman. But no, he's fucking crazy. That's that's upfront. So there's no kind of mysterious about that. There's nothing mysterious about it. So that's kind of mostly what I know about him. I know about the split personality. I really do like the suit detective concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of going back and forth between the superhero costume and the suit. But I'm always kind of a sucker for that kind of thing.
Okay.
It's weird. I feel like Moon Knight is one of those characters that I feel like I should be more into. Like I said, I've only really read the Ellis run.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Maybe it's because I just don't have enough time and money to buy everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I just make those sacrifices. But there's been several characters like that. Like Carol Danvers was kind of that way for me, when she was Miss Marvel all the way up until the Captain Marvel thing. Then I took a chance and really got into it. And Moon Knight is one of those kind of characters. Like, yeah, I like you, but yeah.
So in that case, what made you want to talk about what made you to pick a Moon Knight fan film?
Well, it's recent, and I haven't heard anybody talk about it. Also, I like, the basic concepts of the character. And I also wanted to take a chance. I don't think we've discussed Moon Knight, so
No,
that's one of the
no.
things. Yeah, that's one of the things about doing these reviews is, I want to seek out characters that, I don't have too much experience with, which is why, I've been picking, like, video game fan films or characters I only have, like, a loose knowledge of, like Moon Knight here. Because I think it might be fun.
Yeah, it is cool to like go into some unfamiliar territory here and there. So yeah, like I don't have much experience with Moon Knight. He's kind of infamous for having very short runs too, which is kind of crazy. Like I think one year there were like 3 Moon Knight #1s, which even for Marvel that's a bit much.
Now Marvel, that's normal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But so like I was going into this and I wasn't really sure what they were gonna do or if it was gonna be just completely its own thing. I think it's fair to say they went with pretty much completely its own thing. I was a little surprised by the tone that they went for because, again, I don't know much about the character, so I don't know if this is really baked into his origin or not. But this almost feels like more of a Punisher fan film than Moon Knight to me for whatever reason.
It does lean heavy into that kind of trope.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be honest, the obvious dead girlfriend character in bed smiling at him, I'm not familiar. I'm sure Moon Knight has a couple of dead people that he's close to.
Yeah, women in refrigerators kind of situation, probably.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 80s and 90s, you know it. But I don't know. I guess the film really doesn't do enough to really establish that. I mean, it does kind of bank on you knowing the character.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they had maybe kind of informed a little bit better than that.
I mean, they get you the gist of what you need. He's mad because she's dead. And, like,
Yeah.
even though I will say it feels more like a Punisher thing to me than Moon Knight does, because Moon Knight does get kind of brutal from what I have read of him, but at the same time, it's more of like Moon Knight gets like Tarantino brutal, I guess I'd say, where it's like, even though it's really like intense and graphic, it's kind of silly. Like you could almost kind of laugh at the levels of gore. From what I remember of what I've read of Moon Knight, I'm certainly no expert. Whereas this, it doesn't really feel that that kind of tone to me.
No.
But like there was some dialogue in here I quite liked right before it started to get as graphic as it did. He has the line, I'm trying to remember the exact wording of it because I thought it was just a really well written line, but it's like, now I'm just mad. Or, yeah, it's not about revenge. It's not about doing the right thing. Now I'm just mad. And I thought that was a really well written line in the context of Moon Knight because of the multiple meanings of the word mad.
Yeah.
I thought that worked really, really well and did feel very specific to the character. Like that, you could give Punisher that same line, but it wouldn't have the same kind of context as it does with Moon Knight.
I don't know. Punisher he's always seemed a character that seemed more in denial of his anger for the most part. Where Moon Knight, I don't know, he does seem more real on that aspect of it. I really liked the line, and forgive me if I don't know the exact wording, but there's this line where he says, he's played so many different people, he's kind of lost who he is. Which I like that.
Isn't one of his backgrounds that he's like an actor? Like that's where his fortune comes from, is that he's a famous actor or some shit?
He's like, God, there's been so many things like he thinks he does. He has like, generally there's like 3 different dominant personalities. One of them is a taxi driver. And when he thought he was on the team, I think for a while, if I'm not mistaken, when he thought he was with, he thought he was like Wolverine and Spider-Man and Captain America, which I never really liked that take because I thought it was just too gratuitous. But that line kind of struck out at me. I liked quite a bit.
Yeah, and I like the way it was shot to visualize that, like with the black void and him being around the other, personas he puts on and how that, like, he's like kind of losing track of himself within it. I thought that was really cool.
That was, and it feels very influenced by the Netflix Marvel shows.
There's a really good point. I didn't think about it that way.
That's kind of what I was thinking inspired this, because there's been a lot of talk about Netflix doing like a Moon Knight one, but of course that's not going to happen now. But I mean, for the longest time, people going, man, there should totally be a Moon Knight one to join this universe. He would fit in. He would be right at home. The tone of his books would fit into this. So I imagine this is what the producers of this fan film wanted to do. It's like, okay, let's see what that would look like.
I think that's fair, and like the brutality definitely works, because part of my thing, I never really got super into the Netflix Marvel shows, because I don't know, they felt very tonally off from the rest of the MCU. Like, is it fair to say first season of Daredevil just feels like Batman Begins? And it doesn't feel like the rest of the MCU at all to me, and like tonally that works, but just consistency doesn't seem to be there for whatever reason.
I never had a problem with that. Actually, that's one of the things that attracted me to it.
Okay, I mean the variety is cool. I'll give you that.
Because like the comic book universes, both Marvel and DC have this, where they have like tonally goofy stuff. They have like standard superhero stuff, and then they have dark stuff. And I really like the idea that they were kind of expanding that in their film universe.
Okay, and I think that's fair. For me, it never really worked on a personal level. But like this does feel like it fits in with that tone. Like I watched the first episode of Punisher season 1 where he like fucking murders all those guys at the construction site. And yeah, this whole thing with Moon Knight just taking all these guys out around the truck, it's brutal as hell, and it does feel like it would fit in with that Netflix universe.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that shit was just like intense, man. What else? What'd you think of the costume that they went with here?
The costume, I think, is the only thing visually I didn't care for. I think the way this whole film looks is really nice and very well shot. I love the editing too. But yeah, one of my problems was the costume. Like, it's black with only white gloves and the mask, which I gotta say, I loved the mask a lot. It looks like maybe it might be like a painted over Deathstroke mask.
I mean, that's possible. Like, it's hard to tell where people get this kind of stuff from.
Or like or a Red Hood mask or something like that.
The blue eyes really did do it for me. I thought that looked fantastic.
That looked gorgeous on screen. I really loved that. And also when he got hit with it, like in the face, like they went out. The bodysuit, I didn't particularly care for. I thought it wasn't very interesting. I like the fact that he kept the hood part, but it's like black jacket and trench coat and then black body armor.
I was a little disappointed we didn't get like the white cape and hood. Like you can, I'm just out of curiosity. I'm googling images of Moon Knight and. The undersuit changes a bit. Sometimes it's black, sometimes it's all white. Now that part changes. The thing that seems most consistent about Moon Knight is it's a white hood and cape. You could probably ditch the cape in exchange for a trench coat, like we do with a lot of modern superheroes. But yeah, it really should have been white. It's hard not to. I don't know if that's a nitpick or not, but it's hard not to kind of go for that. It seems so iconic to the character.
It does, and he even has a line about why he wears white, so the blood can show up easier. It's like, well, your costume is like 90% black. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like your gloves.
And I don't know, maybe it's just really hard to find a white trench coat and hood.
That would be my guess. You're on a budget, and like, where are you going to find all this white stuff? Mm-hmm. I would have liked to. I don't know. It might have been nice to see him do the detective suit. With the mask and the gloves.
Yeah, you probably could have pulled off the white suit. Those are cheap. Hell, I have a white suit. You can get those dime a dozen, really.
Yeah. So that would have been easier to find.
Or, like, even if you couldn't do, like, I feel like a white hood would have been easier to manage, and you could have just gotten, like, a doctor's coat or something. And if you shoot it right, maybe you wouldn't be able to tell what exactly it is, or if just you take it out of the context of a doctor, and it probably would have been able to work out. I mean, it doesn't break anything. It just it did kind of like stand out to me. I'm like, oh, they didn't go with the white hood and jacket, huh? And that's just because that's like one of the only things I know about Moon Knight is he's one of the few superheroes who wears like that much white.
And they built it up really well. So when we got to see it, it's like, oh darn, they went with the most generic looking thing they could have. I mean, except for the mask. The mask I really love.
I like the gloves. I thought the gloves looked really cool too. Like they had like those metal rings or something on them that just looked kind of like that would hurt to get punched with.
That's a good point. There was some good detailing on the gloves.
Yeah, I really like that. I like when he brought out the moonerangs, I guess I'd call them. I thought those looked great. They just like ultra polished, which does fit with the whole I like to see the blood thing. Just they look like freaking chrome almost. It was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know where they got them. I wonder if they made them. They look really, I don't know. They look expensive. They look like something you'd see in an actual film project.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing we haven't talked about much. Like just how well done this is. It's crazy again to bring up the Punisher thing, but like one of the conversations I used to have with Alex, superhero enthusiast, was that we both really wanted Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro to make a Punisher movie that's just Taxi Driver but with the Punisher, and this kind of had that feel of just like it's got the narration, it's got the shot of him just driving around town, it's got the a lot of that just felt very much like in line with Taxi Driver, but kind of like done in the modern age and just like really creepy. Or, I don't know if creepy is the right word. Really unsettling and kind of weird, and like it got a high level of tension to it.
I think that's a good way to put it. Because you know what, I'm gonna say, it's funny how influential Taxi Driver is, not just a film with other films, but it was very influential with comic books. Like I've heard like Frank Miller talk about Taxi Driver influences, and it's kind of all over some other characters, including Moon Knight. Let's see, a little bit in Watchmen, although I don't know when more started on Watchmen, but I mean it feels like a little bit kind of dripped in there and over again.
I think that's fair to say. It's got like that weird tone to it, and it's just the right kind of like creepy character study. And again, it just, I don't know, like there's all these shots of this taxi driving around, and I didn't know that was actually one of Moon Knight's careers that he's had in the comics.
Yes.
But I saw that and I was like, oh, so they're kind of going with like a Taxi Driver thing for their version of Moon Knight. That's immediately what I thought of. So it's kind of cool to see that. I thought it was pretty neat. It's just neat to find out that those things might be a little more connected than I'm aware of. I will say the taxi driver thing was cool. I do think it was maybe a little bit ridiculous. The gangsters are sitting there talking about murdering a girl, and just like so blatantly in front of a cabbie. I'm like, yeah, maybe that would happen, but that seems just like even too callous for a comic book villain, you know?
Yeah, they seem a little overconfident that that won't come back and haunt them.
Yeah, I know. Like they go, hey man, what about this guy? It's like, oh, what's he gonna do? I don't know. Pretend nothing's wrong until he drops you off and then calls the police?
Like, he doesn't have to beat you up to do anything. He's got a fucking phone in his car. Yeah, they all do.
Yeah, I do think that was maybe a little ridiculous. I don't know. What can you do with it? It's there's probably just a better way to have done it. Like, because the whole point is, oh, they'll think of me as invisible. And I guess maybe if they like had a divider up, but then you showed like some kind of device that he was using to listen to them anyway, so that they felt comfortable talking behind the divider, that would have worked a bit better. It feels too callous. And I get the point is that these guys are supposed to be fearless and he's giving them something to fear, but I don't know, just it goes a little over the line for me and just kind of becomes a little more laughable than it does dramatic.
I know. You know, it's funny, in the last few years, like, there have been times where I look at things like that and go, you know what? Maybe there are people like that. Like, you know, I've been maybe on Twitter too much.
You know, you're not wrong.
It's like, maybe people are cartoonishly evil, and I've just been telling myself they aren't.
Yeah, like I remember someone was talking about, like, if I'm a writer, and if I tried to write someone as evil as Donald Trump, my editor would tell me that I'm making someone just completely unbelievable as my villain. Like, he doesn't even like dogs. Even Hitler had a dog.
I know. He'd go, no. Make him like his daughter or something. I don't know. Just do something with it. So I don't know. It's just like, now when I see a scene like this, like the guys in the taxi cab, I'm like thinking, maybe that's right. I was watching, quick aside, I was watching a review of Captain Marvel 1, and it was a mostly positive review, although they started going into, like, the villain who shows up at the end of the first issue is, like, way too cartoonishly misogynist, and I'm like, I read that issue and I didn't even think about that. I just, like, maybe I'm just on YouTube too much, because he sounded pretty much, correct for that type of guy. So I don't know. I mean, life has a way of, like, changing your perspective on things. So, I agree. It might have been cool if he had, like, had a false glass to make them more secure. And to be honest, that's something I would have done as a writer. But, like, I don't know. People are fucking awful.
Yeah, that's fair. You can always count on how awful people just as a whole are. So that's a fair counter argument. I'll give you. All right. What else?
Thank you.
Yeah. What else can we talk about with this one? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think they maybe waited too long to show us, Moon Knight proper, or do you think it's given to us exactly when we need it?
I think they gave it to us exactly when we need it. I thought it did a different job. I think it did a different job. I think they did an effective job of kind of introducing us to Mark Spector and kind of showing us their version of his routine and how he's feeling, and kind of building it up till we get to the costume. And it's only like a 17-minute film, so it's not like we waited 2 hours like some movies would do that in real life. So it's like, okay, it's an hour 40, time to introduce the character and the costume. No, I thought it was fine. I thought it was actually pretty well paced.
Okay, all right, that's fair. For me, I was like, I don't know. As I was watching it, I was a little tired when I started watching it, and I definitely got more awake, more involved as it went on, which I think is a very good sign. But I don't know. I was just kind of watching him like, all right, so now he's going to go in the costume. Now he's going to be in the costume. And then when I finally get it, I'm like, all right, now he's in the costume. And it's the best scene of the entire thing. I can't deny just how great an action scene that is. And we can talk maybe a little more about the choreography too. But like, I just, yeah. I was maybe a little waiting for it as it was happening, but then, you know, to their credit, when it was finally revealed, it was really effective. I mean, again, I have my complaints about the fact that they didn't go with the white hood and cape or coat, but at the same time, what they show us, what they do with it, I feel was done really well. So it was a pretty good payoff, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, in comparison, like Daredevil Season 1 really waits until, this last episode, the second to last episode, to show him in full costume. Yeah. So I don't mind waiting 10 minutes.
Totally fair. What did you think of the choreography of the fight scene?
It was really good. Like, you know, we've seen some good and bad fight choreography in these fan films, and, you know, they took their time with this. You know, the fight, the blows were really brutal. God, a guy gets the crowbar in the eyeball. One of my favorite bits was the guy throwing the axe. He catches it, and then he, uses it to lob off his leg, you know, from the knee down. Mm-hmm. And he does it, really fluidly, too. Yeah,
I really like how that all worked out. I thought that was a really, really great dynamic shot. I also really liked when he found, the nail sticking out of the brick wall and he kills the guy with it. I thought that was really cool, and just, you know, when you see how a character fights in a thing, it can actually tell you a lot about them. You know, the typical stuffy critic that doesn't look at anything beyond the script tends to miss stuff like this of action scenes are just there. I'm gonna go to the bathroom during the action scene. But this does a good job of communicating, you know, the kind of impulsive guy that I feel Moon Knight is here, because he clearly didn't plan for them to see him when they saw him. And that shot of he just looks over at the wall and sees the nail and then decides to use that as an opportunity is really cool. But especially because he doesn't use it right away. He's backed up against the wall by someone, he sees the nail, he gets rid of that guy, 2 more guys come charging toward him, he bashes one dude's head just against the brick, and then he's like, nope, missed. And then he gets the other guy that comes at him and gets him on the nail. I thought that was really, really cool. How he's he directed it toward the nail twice. I thought that was just a really, really neat little showcase of the character within the fight choreography there.
Yeah, it's good pacing. It's good visual storytelling with the fight. I always like that kind of thing with fight scenes. You can get really... I love fight scenes and action, but nothing bores me than repetitive action that really doesn't build or anything like that. And this did not do that at all. I mean, this really... I think you pointed out. I think it was really well done.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we can go ahead and go on to ratings then. What will you rate this fan film, Manos?
I enjoyed this quite a bit. I do have some of my nitpicks a little bit with a little bit of the Moon Knight costume itself. It does overdo the darkness dialogue here and there, although other times it's very, very good. So it's a tiny bit of a mixed bag on that. The film looks gorgeous, and it kind of makes me wish we did get that Netflix Moon Knight film that they were hinting at. So I really dug it. I would have to say I would give it 4 out of 5 darkened boardrooms.
Nice. And yeah, I'm pretty much right with you. There's a lot here that's just done really, really well. Even if I disagree with some of the decisions, I ultimately don't think they're real significant problems. They're just things that came up in my head as I was thinking about it and watching it and talking about it. So yeah, I am going to go ahead and agree with you and give this a 4 out of 5, nails in the wall. Because I did really like that. That was cool. Okay, well, next week, Manos, we will be reviewing New Wings, a Batgirl fan film.
Oh, yay!
Yes. This is a Barbara Gordon fan film, so this should be cool. Everyone, until then, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Realist.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.